I thought I had it all. Everything anyone could ever dream of. A home, a husband, a beautiful little life. It felt perfect. At least that's what everyone told me. You're so lucky, they'd say. You have it all figured out. I smiled and nodded, never admitting how far from the truth that was. How far from perfect everything really felt inside my own head. Trevor was my world. We built this life together, brick by brick. I thought we were happy. He'd leave for work, and I'd stay home with the kids, keeping our life in order. Every day was the same, but that was okay. Stability was good, right? But I started noticing things. Little things that didn't add up. His phone would be face down. He'd lock it whenever I walked in the room. At first, I brushed it off. He was just busy, right? But then, it was the late nights. He'd come home later than usual, always with some excuse about overtime or traffic. And the texts. Always on silent. Always deleted. I didn't want to believe it, but there was a nagging feeling in the back of my mind. I kept thinking, there has to be a reasonable explanation. But then the shift in his behavior grew more obvious. He became distant. Our conversations felt like small talk. Where we once laughed and talked for hours, now it was just surface-level chatter. It made my stomach twist. One day, I found it. It wasn't much. Just a hotel receipt stuffed in the back pocket of his jacket. I don't know why I looked there. I don't know why I even cared anymore. But there it was, as plain as day. The date matched a time he had told me he was working late. My heart stopped. The receipt was from a hotel on the other side of town. No business meeting, no overtime. I felt like I was drowning. I stood in the living room staring at that piece of paper in my hand, trying to breathe. My hand shook. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to deny it, to tell myself there was some mistake, but I knew. I knew. He had cheated on me. The world felt like it was collapsing in on itself. I kept thinking back to all those moments we shared. The smiles, the laughter, the plans. Was it all just a lie? I couldn't just sit there pretending it wasn't real. I needed answers. I didn't want to confront him right away. Not yet. Not until I could think clearly. But inside, I felt like I was losing myself. I never expected to be here. Not like this. Not with this person I thought I knew so well. How could you do this to me, Trevor? The silence in the house felt deafening as I stared at the receipt. I couldn't escape the thought. My whole life had just shattered, and I didn't know what to do next. Should I confront him? Should I act like I didn't know and wait for him to confess? I hated myself for even considering letting him off the hook. But if I was honest, I was terrified of what I might hear. My mind raced, spiraling into a million questions. I didn't want to lose him, but at the same time, I couldn't. Ignore the truth. I wasn't sure if I was strong enough to handle what was coming, but in that moment, one thing was clear. Everything had changed. Nothing would ever be the same again. I couldn't keep it inside anymore. The receipt was burning a hole in my hand, and every thought in my mind kept screaming, "Confront him now." I couldn't sit there pretending I didn't know. I couldn't pretend everything was fine while my heart was being torn apart. I waited until he got home from work. He didn't notice how quiet I was, how still I was. He dropped his keys on the table, his usual greeting lost in my silence. I could feel my pulse pounding in my neck. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, as if nothing had changed, as if I hadn't already discovered his lie. I didn't answer. I just held up the receipt in front of his face. I saw the shock in his eyes, but then a flash of defensiveness. I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. He swallowed hard, his jaw tightening. "Where did you get that?" "The real question is, why do you have it in your jacket?" I shot back, my voice shaking. I could hear the cracks in it, feel the tears building behind my eyes, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Trevor, I know what's going on. I know you've been seeing someone else." His face changed, and for a moment I saw the truth flash across it. But he quickly recovered, his usual charm taking over. "You're imagining things." I don't know what you're talking about. My heart beat so loudly I could barely hear my own thoughts. Don't lie to me. I felt the anger surge in my chest. But it wasn't just anger. It was a mix of everything. Hurt, betrayal, disbelief. I found the receipt. The hotel receipt, Trevor. Don't tell me I'm imagining things. He ran his hand through his hair, looking anywhere but at me. Look, I didn't mean for it to happen. It was just a mistake, okay? A stupid, stupid mistake. Please don't make this bigger than it is. I shook my head, the tears starting to fall. A mistake? You don't get it, do you? This isn't just a mistake. This is betrayal. You've been lying to me. You've been lying for months. And all this time I've been here, thinking everything was fine. I took a deep breath, my voice barely above a whisper. How long, Trevor? How long has this been going on? His eyes shifted, unwilling to meet mine. He didn't say anything for a long moment, but the silence between us spoke volumes. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he said finally, his voice low and defeated. I didn't think it would happen. That word, the way he said it. Like it wasn't a person, wasn't another woman, wasn't an affair that had ripped everything apart. I clenched my fists at my sides, fighting the urge to scream. How could you, Trevor? How could you do this to me? To us? My heart was breaking in a way I didn't even know was possible. How could I not see it? All those little things, those moments when he'd come home late, the way he acted strange around his phone, how distant he had been for weeks. I'd brushed them off, thinking they were just my insecurities. But they weren't. It was him. I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt you. His voice was full of shame, but the words felt hollow. I couldn't stop the flood of questions from pouring into my mind. Why? Why her? What did I do wrong? Was I not enough for you? The pain was unbearable, like a jagged knife twisting in my chest. No, it's not like that, he rushed to say. But I could see in his eyes that he didn't know how to make this right. He didn't even know where to begin. He couldn't fix what he had broken. I don't know what I was thinking. I never meant to hurt you. But that was the problem, wasn't it? He never meant to hurt me. But he did. He broke me. The person I loved, the person I trusted more than anyone in the world, had shattered everything. I was drowning in my own thoughts, in the pain, in the realization that the person I had built my life around had torn it down in a matter of weeks. How long? I asked again, my voice trembling. A few months, he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. I couldn't look at him anymore. I had to turn away. His face, the one I used to love so much, was no longer familiar to me. A few months, I repeated under my breath, as if saying the words aloud would make it feel less real. You've been lying to me for months. I couldn't stop the tears now. I believed in us, Trevor. I believed in you. I thought we had something real, but it wasn't real, was it? He was silent, his gaze dropping to the floor. I could tell he was sorry, but that didn't matter to me anymore. I had trusted him with everything I had, and he had taken it for granted. You've ruined everything, I said, barely able to hold myself together. I don't even know who you are anymore. The days that followed were a blur. Every second felt like it was dragging me further into this nightmare, but I couldn't stop myself. I couldn't escape it. My mind kept going back to the same question. Why? How could he betray me like this? I couldn't stop thinking about the affair. It consumed me. I couldn't focus on anything else, not even the kids. I tried to pretend things were normal, but every time I looked at Trevor, I saw nothing but the lies he'd fed me, the secrets he'd hidden. I found myself scouring. His phone, his texts, his call history, anything. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't help it. I needed to know everything, every message, every word. I needed to know who she was. I needed to see the proof that I wasn't just imagining it. One night, when he was out with friends, I went through his messages again. I wasn't proud of it. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't care. My hands were trembling as I scrolled, hoping for something. Anything that would explain why he'd done this to me. Who is she, Trevor? I muttered under my breath as I found her name again. A message. From months ago. I miss you. I can't wait to see you again. I stared at it for what felt like hours. My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't breathe. I needed to know more. It felt like everything was falling apart. How had I not seen this? How had I been so blind? Trevor, the man I'd trusted with everything, had been lying to me. For months. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, and then I saw hers. The woman who had replaced me, who had taken everything I thought was mine. The anger surged, but so did the pain. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw things. I wanted to destroy everything. But what would that accomplish? The obsession grew. I couldn't stop myself. I replayed his words in my head over and over again. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen. I hated myself for believing them. I hated myself for wanting to believe him. But deep down, I knew I couldn't trust him anymore. Why didn't I see it? I whispered to myself one night, alone in the dark. I could feel the tears welling up again. What did I miss? I began to obsess over every little detail. His behavior, the way he'd been acting distant, the late nights, the excuses, the way he would get defensive when I asked simple questions. I couldn't get the thought out of my head. The thought that maybe I had never been enough for him. Am I really just not good enough? I said to the empty room, my voice shaking. I tried to push the thoughts away, but they kept coming back. Over and over again. And then there was the thought of revenge. I didn't know what it would look like. I didn't know if it would even make me feel better. But I couldn't help it. A part of me wanted to see him hurt the way he had hurt me. I wanted him to feel the pain, to feel the weight of what he had done. But then, the other part of me, the part that still loved him, kept asking if that would even help. Would it really make the hurt go away? Would it make me feel better? Or would it just make everything worse? I can't just forgive him, I said to myself, pacing the living room. How can I? How can I just pretend this never happened? I didn't know what to do with myself. The truth was I was unraveling. Bit by bit, I was falling apart. And yet, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop thinking about him, about her, about everything that had been ripped away from me. I had no idea how to move forward, but I couldn't stay here either. I couldn't live in this place, in this broken version of myself. But every time I thought about leaving, I felt like I was giving him exactly what he wanted. I tried to find comfort in the people around me, but it never lasted. My friends would tell me I was stronger than this, that I would get through it, but they didn't understand. They didn't know what it felt like to love someone and have them tear your world apart. I felt like I was losing control of everything. I wasn't sure if I even wanted revenge anymore. I just wanted peace. I wanted to stop obsessing. I wanted to stop feeling like I was drowning, but I couldn't. I couldn't stop. The betrayal was always there, gnawing at me, reminding me of what I had lost. And the worst part? I didn't know if I'd ever be able to let it go. I couldn't stand it any longer. I watched him go on as if everything was normal, his life, his happiness, while I was drowning in my own pain. I had to confront him, but this time I wasn't just going to confront him in our living room. This time I needed to see it all. I needed to know everything. I found out where they'd been meeting, a little cafe on the corner of Maple Street. He'd taken her there countless times, not knowing that I was watching him. My fingers gripped the steering wheel as I parked outside, my heart hammering in my chest. I could feel my pulse in my neck, my hands shaking with anger. I'm done being the fool. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't even know if I'd say anything when I walked in. But I couldn't stay in the dark anymore. I needed to look him in the eye, confront him face to face, and make him realize what he had done. The door creaked as I stepped inside. My eyes scanned the room, and then I saw them. There they were, sitting at a table in the corner. His arm was casually draped over the back of her chair. The woman who had stolen everything from me. She was beautiful, confident, radiant even. She laughed, her smile bright and carefree as she looked up at him. It cut through me like a knife. I felt small, insecure. I wasn't the woman he came home to anymore. She is. I stood there for a moment, frozen in place. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. All I could do was watch. But then the anger surged inside me. How dare they? I couldn't take it anymore. I marched over to their table, my voice rising as I shouted, "What the hell is this, Trevor?" Both of them froze. His eyes widened, and for a split second I saw the guilt flash across his face. But it was quickly replaced with defensiveness. The bastard was going to lie his way out of this too. "What are you doing here?" He stood up, his voice filled with shock. Like I didn't already know the truth. "I'm here to get some answers," I spat, my voice shaking with rage. I couldn't hold it in any longer. The woman, her name was Lisa, I realize now, looked at me, a mix of curiosity and challenge in her eyes. "What's this about?" she asked, not even trying to hide her smugness. I shot her a glare, my hands trembling. At my sides. "You really think it's okay to just walk in here like this?" I turned to Trevor. "This is the woman you've been seeing behind my back?" He didn't respond immediately, but his eyes were filled with guilt and frustration. He looked between the two of us, caught. I could see his mind racing, but his mouth didn't seem capable of coming up with the right words. "I didn't want this to happen," he muttered finally. "It's not what you think." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "Not what I think?" "Really? You've been lying to me for months, Trevor. I found the receipts. I know everything." He stepped forward, trying to calm me down, but I was beyond it. His touch didn't comfort me anymore. It only made me angrier. "Don't touch me," I snapped. "You've already done enough damage." I turned to Lisa, the woman who was now standing between us, daring to act like she didn't know this damage she was causing. "Do you even realize what you've done?" I demanded. She rolled her eyes, her expression cold. "I didn't force him into anything, okay? He came to me." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. He came to her. It wasn't just her fault, it was him too. He had made that choice. I wasn't enough for him anymore. He had picked her over me. "I hope it was worth it," I whispered, my voice trembling with a mix of sorrow and rage. It had to be worth it for him to throw everything away. Trevor opened his mouth to speak, but I didn't want to hear it. I didn't care about his excuses anymore. He had taken everything that mattered to me, and no words would make that go away. "I don't want to hear it, Trevor," I said, turning on my heel. "I'm done. We're done." I walked out, ignoring the stunned looks from the people in the cafe. The cold air hit me like a slap in the face, but it was nothing compared to the feeling of emptiness inside. I had no place in his life anymore. The reality of what had just happened hit me like a ton of bricks. I had confronted him. I had confronted them. And now, everything was shattered beyond repair. It was over. He was with her now, and I was left with nothing but the pieces of my broken heart. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know if I wanted revenge, or if I just wanted to disappear. I had no place here anymore. The life I thought I had was gone. But deep down, I knew. No matter how much I screamed or cried, nothing would change. He had made his choice. And now, so had I. I couldn't hold it together anymore. The walls felt like they were closing in on me. Everything, every part of my life that I thought was solid was slipping away. I'd never imagined this would be my reality, sitting alone in the house we built together, drowning in a silence that felt so loud I couldn't escape it. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. My throat was too tight. Stood in the middle of the living room, looking around. This place, our home, now felt empty. All of it. Our furniture, the pictures of us together, the things we bought as a family, felt so hollow. They were just things now. Things that meant nothing without him by my side. I couldn't breathe. I let myself sink down onto the couch, my face buried in my hands. Tears poured out of me, hot and uncontrollable. I didn't even try to stop them. I just cried. I cried for everything I had lost, for everything I had believed in, for the future that had been ripped away. "Why?" I whispered to the empty room, my voice barely audible. "Why did you do this, Trevor?" I didn't expect an answer. He wasn't here. He was with her. The woman who had stolen him from me, who had made me feel like I wasn't enough. The worst part? I felt like I was losing myself. Everything I thought I knew about who I was, who we were, was shattered. How could he just throw it all away? The years we spent together, the vows we took, was it all just meaningless to him? Was I nothing more than a placeholder, someone to pass the time with until something better came along? I stood up, my hands shaking as I walked into the kitchen. I stared at the counter, trying to find something to hold on to, something that would make me feel grounded again. But all I saw were the remnants of our life together. The dishes we had bought for our wedding, the fridge filled with leftovers from our last family dinner. Every piece of it felt like a lie now. I grabbed my phone, my fingers numb as I scrolled through pictures of us. The wedding day, the day Zoe was born. How did we get here? My heart ached, and I realized I had no answers. I was lost in a sea of confusion and pain, and there was no way out. I didn't know who I was anymore. Who was I without him? Without the life I thought we had? Was I just a failure? Was I so unimportant that he could toss me aside for someone else? "Am I not worth it?" I whispered to the mirror, staring at my reflection. The woman I saw didn't look like me. She looked like a stranger, someone broken and lost. I didn't even recognize her. I ran my hands through my hair, my body trembling, with the weight of it all. The heartbreak. The betrayal. It felt like my entire existence was crumbling, and I didn't know how to stop it. There was a knock at the door, and I jumped, startled by the sound. My heart raced. Who could that be? I didn't want to deal with anyone right now. I was so lost in my own grief, I didn't care who it was. But I had to answer. I opened the door, and there stood my best friend, Rachel. Her face was soft with concern, but I couldn't bring myself to speak. The tears had already started again, rolling down my cheeks without my permission. "Hey," she said gently, stepping inside. She wrapped her arms around me, pulling me into a tight hug. I didn't fight it. I couldn't. I buried my face in her shoulder and let the sobs take over. "I don't know what to do, Rachel," I managed to say between gasps for air. "I feel like I don't even know who I am anymore. I can't breathe." I know," she murmured, stroking my back. "But you will breathe again, okay? You're strong. You'll get through this." I wanted to believe her. But right now, I couldn't. I felt so far from strong. I felt like I was drowning in my own emotions. Rachel pulled back slightly, looking at me with soft eyes. "I know it's hard right now. I can't imagine what you're going through, but you will get through this. It's okay to fall apart. For a little while, but you have to pick yourself up. For you. For Zoe." The mention of Zoe hit me hard. She was the only thing keeping me together, the only thing that made me feel like I had a purpose. But right now, I was so lost in my own pain, I couldn't even think straight. "I don't know how to fix this," I said, the words barely leaving my lips. "How do I fix me?" "You don't need to fix yourself. You just need to heal," Rachel replied, squeezing my hand. "And you will. It won't happen overnight, but you'll get there. Just take it one day at a time." I nodded slowly, unsure if I believed her, but I didn't have anything else to hold on to. Maybe she was right. Maybe I could find a way to heal. But right now, all I could do was cry and try to piece myself back together. The life I had known was gone, but I had to figure out how to survive without it. I had to fight. For me, for Zoe, for everything I had left. It wasn't easy. I won't lie about that. The emotional scars from everything that happened still stung, but slowly, I began to rebuild. Every day felt like a battle. Some days I won, some days I didn't. But the key thing was that I was fighting. I wasn't just sitting there letting everything he did to me define me. I couldn't. It started with the small things. I went back to the gym. I hadn't worked out in months, maybe even years, because I had put everything into being his wife. But no more. I needed to feel good about myself again. I needed to do something for me, not for him, not for anyone else, just for me. I could feel the difference almost immediately. Every drop of sweat felt like I was washing away a little more of the pain. But it wasn't just my body. I needed to fix my mind too. The days of obsessing over his betrayal, wondering where I went wrong, were over. I needed therapy. I needed someone to help me untangle the mess I had become. I couldn't carry this alone anymore. I went to see Dr. Hart every week. I didn't want to at first. I thought, I can't afford therapy. I don't have time for therapy. I should just deal with this myself. But I knew better. I had to let myself heal, and sometimes that meant asking for help. The first time I told her everything, I felt so raw. But her words stuck with me. You are worthy of love, not just from others, but from yourself. The first time I really let that sink in, I had to pause. It felt foreign. Me, worthy of love? I had spent so long giving all of myself to someone who didn't even value me. I couldn't remember the last time I'd thought about what I wanted, what I needed. It was always about keeping him happy, about being a good wife. But I wasn't just a wife. I was me. And I had forgotten who me was. I'm not going to lie, I said one day after a session, staring at myself in the mirror. I still don't feel like I'm enough. You're starting to see it, though, Dr. Hart replied, smiling softly. One step at a time. And that was the key. One step at a time. I couldn't fix everything overnight. I couldn't erase the hurt and betrayal with a wave of my hand, but I could start rebuilding. I took up painting again, something I had loved when I was younger but had abandoned as life got more complicated. It felt like reconnecting with an old friend. The strokes of color, the quiet solitude. It was exactly what I needed. I spent hours lost in the canvas, not thinking about Trevor, not thinking about her, just me and the paint. I forgot how good it felt to create something for myself. And then there were my friends. I hadn't realized how much I had neglected them. The way I had let myself get lost in Trevor's world, cutting myself off from the people who truly cared about me. But now, I reached out. I made plans. I went out with Rachel, with Sophia, with anyone who would have me. We laughed, we cried, we talked about everything except what I had left behind. I'm proud of you, Rachel told me one night as we sat on my couch, glasses of wine in hand. You're not just surviving anymore. You're living. I didn't know what to say to that. I wasn't sure if I believed it, but I was getting there. I also started to recognize the sacrifices I had made for him. I gave up my own happiness, my own dreams, my own identity. All of it for the sake of a marriage that wasn't even real. I had built a life around his needs, his desires, and in the process, I lost myself. But now I was taking it back. Every decision I made, I was doing for me. Every step I took, I was learning how to be the person I was before him. And that person was enough. More than enough. I was worthy of love. I was worthy of respect. I was worthy of happiness, not because of Trevor, not because of anyone else, but because I was me. It wasn't easy. There were still days when I cried, still days when I wanted to call him and ask him why. But I didn't. I had made the choice to reclaim myself, to rebuild, and to never let someone else define my worth again. I wasn't who I used to be. I was better, stronger, and I wasn't going to stop until I believed in myself the way I used to believe in him. Because this time, I wasn't doing it for anyone else. I was doing it for me. I didn't want to do it. I fought with myself for days, maybe weeks, about whether I could still hold on to what we had. Part of me kept hoping that things would just magically go back to how they were before. But the truth was undeniable. Things would never be the same. I had given him everything: my love, my time, my trust, and he had thrown it all away. It wasn't about the affair anymore. It wasn't even about the lies. It was about the fact that he had already moved on, and no matter how much I tried, I couldn't keep holding on to a future that no longer existed. I sat there, in our living room, staring at the walls that once felt like home, and I realized something. Staying would only hurt me more. It wasn't fair to either of us. He had made his choice, and now I had to make mine. I picked up the phone. It shook in my hands, but I dialed anyway. "Hey, it's me. I need to talk," I said, trying to steady my voice. "Of course." Rachel's voice was soft, comforting. "What's going on?" "I think I've made a decision," I whispered, closing my eyes. "I'm done. I need to let go." "Let go?" Her voice was concerned, but I could hear the understanding in it too. "Are you sure? I know it's hard, but you can't keep living like this." I took a deep breath. I can't keep holding on. I've tried, but he's gone. And I think it's time for me to go too. Rachel was quiet for a moment, and I knew she was letting me process it. I wasn't sure if I was ready for it, but I had made up my mind. I need the divorce. I don't think I can heal while I'm still living in the shadow of his betrayal. I deserve better than this. I deserve to move on. "I'm proud of you," she said softly. "I know it's not easy, but it's the right choice for you. You'll see." I started, but my words caught in my throat. The reality of it hit me harder than I expected. I never thought it would come to this. I thought we'd make it. But now, I just want to be free. "Freedom isn't just a word," Rachel said. "It's something you'll feel once you take that first step. Let him go, let it go. For you." I hung up and sat in silence for what felt like hours. There was a weight on my chest, but a part of me knew that walking away was the only way forward. The next morning, I found myself sitting in front of a lawyer's office, the papers in front of me. My hand shook as I signed them, the words blurry for a moment. But then something shifted inside of me. This was it, the final step. I called him later that evening. He answered on the second ring, and there was a coldness in his voice that made my stomach twist. "What's up?" "I've made a decision," I said, my voice calm despite the storm inside me. "I want a divorce." His silence was deafening. "Then, you're serious?" "More serious than I've ever been. I'm done. I'm done pretending that we can fix something that's already broken. I'm not going to live like this anymore." There was no apology, no explanation, just the same hollow silence. I could hear his frustration, but I couldn't care anymore. I had spent enough time crying over him, wondering what went wrong, trying to fix something that wasn't mine to fix. "Okay," he finally said, his voice flat. "If that's what you want." "I'm sorry," I whispered, but I wasn't sure if I was apologizing to him or to myself. But I can't keep living in this lie. The phone call ended with the same emptiness I had felt for weeks. I set it down, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel the crushing weight of his betrayal. The divorce process wasn't easy. It never is. But I didn't back down. I stood my ground, emotionally, legally, financially. And, for the first time in months, I felt a spark of relief. For so long, I had been defined by him, by the life we shared, and by the pain he caused. But now, I was starting to see a future where I was the one making the decisions, where I got to decide my worth. The hardest part was telling Zoe. She was young, and I didn't want her to feel like she had to choose between her parents, but I knew this was better for all of us. "Sweetheart, I'm not going anywhere," I said, holding her close. "But Mommy and Daddy, we just can't live together anymore. It's for the best." Her little face scrunched up, but she hugged me tight. "I love you, Mommy." "I love you too," I whispered, holding her tighter. "This is for you too." And for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was mine. I was finally free. The months after the divorce were a blur. There were moments when I thought I'd made the wrong choice. Moments when I missed him so much that it physically hurt. It felt like I was losing a part of myself. I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had done the right thing. I could hear his voice in my head, the sweet words, the promises. But then I would remind myself of what he had done, of how he had shattered everything. One night, Rachel called me, noticing the sadness in my voice. "How are you doing?" she asked gently, like she already knew the answer. "Not great," I said, taking a deep breath. "I miss him, Rachel. I miss the way things used to be. It's like everything's broken now." "I know it feels like that," she replied, her tone soft but firm. "But you're not broken, and you never were. You just have to give yourself time to heal." I let her words sit with me. Time. That was all it really came down to, wasn't it? I needed time to get over the hurt, to stop questioning myself. I knew I had made the right decision, but the scars still stung. Some days I felt like I was going in circles, but other days, I felt a little lighter. Slowly, I started taking better care of myself. I hadn't realized how much of me I had given up to him, how much I had neglected myself. But now, for the first time in a long time, I was starting to focus on me. I went back to the gym, not because I was trying to impress anyone, but because I needed to feel strong again. It was difficult at first. My body was tired, and my mind kept racing with memories of what I had lost. But with every workout, I felt a small sense of victory. I was still standing, and I was doing this for myself. 1. Afternoon, I ran into Trevor at the grocery store. I wasn't expecting it. He looked different, more put together, like he had been living his life without looking back. And I had to admit, that hurt. But I stood there, calm, letting him see me for who I was now. I wasn't the same woman he left behind. I had found my strength, even if it was still growing. "How are you?" he asked, his voice soft. "I'm fine," I said, meeting his eyes. "Really, I'm okay." He looked at me for a long moment, like he was trying to read something in my face. "I'm glad to hear that," he said, a hint of sadness in his voice. And I was glad too. I was glad that I had made it this far. I wasn't perfect. I still had my moments of doubt, but I was finding peace. I was starting to become the person I was always meant to be, strong, independent, and capable of loving myself again. One evening, I found myself sitting in front of the mirror, just staring at my reflection. It was the first time I had done that in months, without the fear or anger clouding my thoughts. I wasn't just seeing the woman who had been hurt. I saw the woman who had survived it. "You're enough," I whispered to myself, and for the first time I believed it. As I started to rebuild my life, I realized something. Watching him move on, seeing him with someone else didn't hurt like I thought it would. Maybe it was because I had already moved on in my own way. He had his new life, and I had mine. And my life, though still in progress, was mine to shape. There were still days when I missed the companionship, the shared moments, but they were fewer now. I had started living for myself, and I was proud of that. I had learned to be my own source of happiness, and nothing could take that away. One afternoon, I was sitting with Zoe at the park, watching her run around and laugh. She was happy. She was thriving. And in that moment, I realized that I wasn't just healing for me. I was healing for her too. She deserved a mother who wasn't broken, who wasn't living in the past. She deserved to see me rise, just like I deserved to rise. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she said that day, her little hand clutching mine as we walked to the car. I smiled, the warmth in my chest spreading. "Thank you, sweetheart. I'm proud of you too." And just like that, the weight I had been carrying all this time lifted a little more. I was no longer defined by the mistakes of the past. I wasn't living in the shadow of Trevor's betrayal. I had found my peace. I had found myself again. And nothing could take that away. Revenge. It was a tempting thought. I won't lie. There were nights when I fantasized about confronting him, humiliating him, making him feel the same pain he had made me feel. I imagined the look on his face, the regret in his eyes as he realized what he had lost. But every time I thought about it, a voice inside me asked, "Is that really what I want?" I didn't need revenge. What I needed was closure. I needed to free myself from the anger, the bitterness that had been eating away at me for months. I wasn't going to let him continue to control my emotions. Holding on to that anger would only keep me tied to him, and I refused to live like that anymore. I had spent too long in that emotional prison. I needed to let it go. I needed to walk away from him, from the life I thought I had, and move forward. So I made a decision. I was going to confront him one last time, but not to fight, not to demand an explanation. I was going to do it to tell him that I was okay, that I had healed, that I was moving on. It wasn't for him. It was for me. I didn't need his apology, his validation, or his regret. I just needed to say the words out loud, to let them go into the air and never come back. When I saw him, the same cold, distant look was in his eyes. He wasn't surprised to see me, but I could tell he wasn't expecting this. "What are you doing here?" he asked, a bit too defensive for my liking. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I just wanted to talk, that's all. My voice was calm, controlled, but inside, I felt a mixture of nerves and relief. "What's there to talk about?" He leaned against the doorframe, his arms crossed like he was already preparing himself for another fight. "I thought we were done. Why are you back here?" "I'm not back here to fight," I said softly. "I just wanted to tell you that I'm okay, that I've moved on. I've healed." His face softened for just a second, but then it was gone, replaced by that same guarded expression I had come to know all too well. "I'm sorry. I know I hurt you," he said, his voice almost a whisper, like he was trying to find the right words. But I could see it now. His apology wasn't for me, it was for himself. He wanted to absolve his guilt to make himself feel better. But I didn't need his apology, not anymore. I had already forgiven him, not for his sake, but for mine. I needed to let it go, to move on without carrying that weight. "I know you are," I said, my voice steady, "but I'm not holding on to this anymore. I don't need you to apologize. I don't need anything from you. I just need to close this chapter and keep going." He opened his mouth like he was going to say something else, but I held up my hand, stopping him. "I've spent too long wondering why. Why you did what you did, why you changed, why we fell apart. But I've realized something. Your actions were a reflection of you, not me. I wasn't the problem. You were." He didn't say anything, just stood there, looking at me with those same eyes that once made me feel safe, but now felt empty. I didn't need him to validate me anymore. I didn't need him to tell me I was worth it, that I deserved better. I already knew that. I had learned to trust myself again. "I don't need your validation," I added, my voice firm now. "I've learned to love myself, and I'm okay without you. I'm better without you." I could see him take a deep breath, and for a moment I thought he might actually say something that would make me feel like this conversation had meant something, but he just nodded, looking away. "I get it. I messed up. It didn't matter." His words didn't change anything. What mattered was that I had finally let go of the anger, the pain, the confusion. I wasn't asking for closure from him anymore. I had already given it to myself. "Goodbye, Trevor," I said quietly, turning to leave. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't filled with rage or tears. It was just quiet. And for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. The door clicked behind me, and I stepped out into the world that was now mine to navigate. The weight of the past no longer held me down. I had freed myself, and that was all I needed. I stood in front of the mirror, taking a long look at myself. The person staring back was different, stronger, more confident, but still the same at her core. I wasn't perfect. I had scars, both visible and invisible. But those scars didn't define me anymore. They were just reminders of how far I'd come. It felt like a lifetime ago when everything I knew had fallen apart. But now, I was ready. Ready to move forward. Ready to embrace what came next. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't holding on to the past. I had let go of the anger, the hurt, and the confusion. I had rebuilt my life from the ground up, and I could finally see the light again. I picked up my phone and dialed Rachel's number. She picked up almost instantly. "Hey, how are you?" she asked, her voice full of warmth. "I'm good," I said, my voice steady, but full of something new. Hope. "I'm actually really good." "I'm so glad to hear that," she said, her voice softening. "You deserve this, you know that, right?" "I know," I said, a small smile forming on my lips. "I think I've finally figured it out. I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm living." "I've been waiting for you to say that." She laughed, and I could hear the pride in her voice. "You've come such a long way." I took a deep breath, my heart feeling light. I've learned to love myself again. I don't need anyone else's validation anymore. I'm in control of my own happiness. "You've always been strong, even when you didn't know it," she said. "I'm proud of you." "Thanks," I replied quietly. "I couldn't have done it without you, though." She was quiet for a moment, and I could almost feel her smile through the phone. "You did this. You healed. You found your own strength. I'm just happy to be along for the ride." I laughed, wiping away a stray tear. I wasn't sad. It was a tear of relief, of finally feeling like myself again. "Well, I think it's time for a new chapter, don't you?" "Absolutely." Rachel's voice was full of excitement. "So what's next?" I smiled to myself, the possibilities feeling endless. "I'm going to start over. I'm going to focus on the things that matter. Me, Zoe, my future. I'm going to make it all about us, not him." "You deserve nothing less," she said, her voice soft with emotion. "I know," I said, a wave of peace washing over me. "And for the first time, I'm not afraid. I'm not scared of what comes next." I hung up the phone and stepped out the door, feeling lighter than I had in months. I had made it through the storm, and now I was walking into the sunshine. The pain wasn't gone, but it no longer had a hold on me. I was free, and that was enough. The world felt like it was waiting for me, offering me endless possibilities. There would still be days of uncertainty, moments where I would feel the weight of everything I had been through, but I was no longer afraid. I knew now that I was stronger than I had ever been. I had taken back control of my life, and nothing could take that from me. As I walked down the street, Zoe by my side, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't felt in so long. My heart was lighter, my mind clearer. I was finally moving forward, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited about what the future held. I didn't need him. I never had. I had always had everything I needed inside me. I looked down at Zoe, her little hand grasping mine, her smile lighting up her face. She was my everything. She was the reason I fought so hard, and now, with the past behind me, I was ready to show her what it meant to truly live. This was my new beginning. And nothing, not even the darkest days I'd survived, could ever take that away.